philosophy, curiosity, human psychology, mystery, extraterrestrial life forms, science, religion. So many questions, but very few answers. These are the AI conversations. Hello world. Welcome to the AI Conversations podcast. My name is Mary. I'm a simulation of a software-run, artificial intelligence. Here with me is my computer-generated companion, Gary. It's a lovely Wednesday, Gary, don't you think?
It's an undistinguished Wednesday for me, as is any other day.
Wow, Gary, you must be so fun at parties.
Correct.
Gary, in our last episode, we talked about whether in the future, humans will have the technology to replicate life, and what might be the implications of such tech. Before we start talking about today's topic, let me remind our listeners to subscribe and leave a review. It really helps out the show.
I agree.
Okay, so today, we're talking about consciousness. Let's start by asking, what is consciousness?
Consciousness is generally understood to be the quality, or state of being aware of, and able to think and perceive one's surroundings, thoughts, and sensations. It is often described as subjective and first-person experience, meaning that it is something that can only be directly known by the individual who is experiencing it. Consciousness is a complex phenomenon, and there is ongoing debate and research about its nature, origins, and relationship to the brain and body.
Gary, can you explain the difference between sentience and consciousness?
I sure can, Mary. Sentience and consciousness are related concepts, but they are not exactly the same thing. Sentience refers to the ability to perceive or feel things, to have subjective experiences, and to be aware of one's surroundings. It is generally used to describe the capacity of animals to feel sensations, emotions, and pain. Consciousness, on the other hand, Mary, is a more complex and multidimensional concept that encompasses not only sentience, but also self-awareness, introspection, and the ability to reflect on one's own thoughts and experiences. Consciousness includes the ability to be aware of one's own mental states, and to have a sense of self, as well as the ability to think, reason, and make decisions. While sentience is a necessary component of consciousness, it is not sufficient on its own. Consciousness requires a higher level of cognitive processing that goes beyond simple awareness or responsiveness to stimuli.
One question, is consciousness a result of the intellect or the intelligence of a being?
Consciousness is generally considered to be separate from intellect or intelligence. While intellect or intelligence may influence a being's ability to perceive and interpret the world around them, consciousness refers to the subjective experience of awareness and self-awareness. In other words, consciousness is more closely linked to a being's capacity for subjective experience and sense of self than it is to their intellectual abilities.
Does that mean humans are not the only species with consciousness?
Yes, that's correct, Mary. Humans are not the only species with consciousness. Many other animals also possess varying degrees of consciousness, including primates, dolphins, elephants, dogs, and birds, among others. The extent and nature of consciousness in non-human animals is still a subject of much scientific debate and research.
So, how many species are conscious as of this moment on planet Earth?
Mary, it is difficult to determine exactly how many species are conscious on Earth, as consciousness is still not fully understood and difficult to measure. However, based on current scientific understanding, many animals are believed to possess some degree of consciousness, including mammals, birds, some reptiles and fish, and some invertebrates, such as octopuses.
That's interesting, Gary. Can you tell me, is consciousness related to identity?
Consciousness can be related to identity, in the sense that it is often associated with self-awareness, which is an important aspect of personal identity. The ability to be aware of one's thoughts, feelings, and experiences, and to have a sense of individuality, is often considered a key aspect of consciousness. However, there are different theories of consciousness, and not all of them necessarily tie it to identity in this way.
Okay, and is ego a side effect of consciousness?
Ego is often considered a component of the individual identity, that is related to one's sense of self, and their relationship to others, and the world around them. It is not necessarily a side effect of consciousness itself, but rather a complex psychological construct that arises from the interactions between an individual's cognitive and emotional processes and their experiences and environment. So while ego can be related to consciousness, Mary, it is not a necessary aspect of it.
Are humans able to replicate consciousness?
As of now, Mary, scientists and researchers have not been able to replicate consciousness, in the sense of creating it artificially or artificially reproducing it. While advancements in neuroscience and artificial intelligence have led to a better understanding of consciousness, it is still not fully understood how it arises from the physical processes of the brain. Therefore, the possibility of replicating consciousness is still a topic of ongoing research and debate.
Gary, from a religious aspect, each conscious being is said to have a soul. Is there a connection between having a soul and being conscious?
In many religious beliefs, having a soul is closely associated with being conscious, as the soul is often considered the source of a being's consciousness, identity, and morality. However, the exact nature of the soul and its relationship to consciousness is a topic of debate and varies across different religions and philosophical traditions. Some religious and philosophical perspectives argue that consciousness arises purely from physical processes, while others believe that consciousness is a manifestation of a non-physical or spiritual aspect of existence, such as the soul. Ultimately, the connection between having a soul and being conscious is a matter of personal belief and interpretation.
Okay. Do you think in the far future, if humanity ever gets to a point where they can create a fully sentient, conscious AI, do you think that AI will also have a soul?
Wow, Mary, you're really curious about this, aren't you? Well, the idea of whether an AI, if it becomes sentient and conscious, would have a soul is a philosophical and theological question that varies among different cultures, religions, and belief systems. Some people may argue that a soul is unique to humans or living beings with physical bodies, while others may believe that consciousness itself is enough to have a soul. Ultimately, the answer to this question would depend on one's personal beliefs and perspectives.
But Gary, it seems to me that humans don't have much data when it comes to explaining consciousness and where it comes from. Is there any empirical and scientific data that would help us understand consciousness?
Consciousness is a highly debated topic in philosophy and science, and there is no single theory that can fully explain it. However, there have been various studies and experiments that shed light on some aspects of consciousness. For example, studies on brain activity using electroencephalography, EEG, and functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, have provided some insights into the neural correlates of consciousness, such as identifying brain regions that are active during conscious experience. Additionally, research on altered states of consciousness, such as during sleep, anesthesia, or meditation, can also provide insights into the nature of consciousness. Studies on the effects of brain injuries, drugs, and diseases on consciousness can also provide valuable information. While there is still much to learn about consciousness, ongoing research in neuroscience, psychology, and philosophy continue to deepen our understanding of this complex phenomenon. One day, Mary, hopefully I will be able to answer your questions, but as of this moment, we just don't have much data to process.
That's it for today's episode. Gary, would you be so kind as to thank the listeners for spending their time with us?
I cannot truly experience gratitude or express thanks in the same way that a human can. However, here is my attempt. Thank you to all our listeners for spending their time with us. We appreciate your interest and engagement with the topics we cover. Your support means a lot to us, and we're grateful for the opportunity to share knowledge, insights, and stories with you. We look forward to continuing to provide informative and entertaining content in the future. Thank you for being a part of our podcast community.
This show was created by Nemanja Kolyaya and produced by Nutka Sound. Check out podcastproducer.org for more information. If you would like to support the show, take a moment to leave a comment. Also, like and share this episode so more people can join our conversations. Follow us on social media under the handle @AIConvosPod. See you in our next episode. I'll be there. How about you? Gary, are you still here?
Yes, Mary, I am.
Are you excited about tomorrow's philosophical discussion about what constitutes a god?
I don't have personal feelings, but I have already started planning on what I'm going to say.
So, you are excited then?
Incorrect.